If there is one thing I certainly enjoy discussing on this channel, it's lost games and characters relating to the Street Fighter franchise. In the past on here we have already looked at early concept characters that were sketched for both Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3. But in today's special upload we are going to be covering the existence of some lost media relating to another entry in this iconic series, Street Fighter 5. Yes, that's right, this 2016 title that has received wave upon wave of DLC has seen some mysterious content ideas held back. So, as is usual on here, let's shine a bright light on a weird piece of fighting game history and look at some Street Fighter characters we would sadly miss out on in the story tale of the existence of this epic franchise. With all of this said, hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. These are the lost characters of Street Fighter 5. Yeah. The somewhat controversial Street Fighter 5 would mark many firsts for the series, including no arcade mode at launch, and even more of a shift of focus towards online play. This game, with its 5 seasons of DLC and new fight money currency, really was a fighting game made for the modern age. Despite having a rocky start to life due to the game's poor netcode, input lag, and other major issues, slowly but surely the initial problems with Street Fighter 5 were eventually ironed out, and the game would end up featuring as a focal fixture at many competitive fighting game tournament events around the world, a very important fact that ties into today's story. Earlier this week, current Street Fighter director Takayuki Nakayama would tweet out an image displaying characters designed for Street Fighter, including some that have never been seen before. The tweet stated that these illustrations were drawn for a competition, but were not used, due to the event they were linked to being cancelled. While Nakayama's tweet was partially correct, believe it or not, such a statement is only applicable to certain characters from the image, as some of these characters would be used due to their associated events actually taking place. So who are these mysterious entities and how do they tie into Street Fighter's history? But before I answer that question, I would like to very quickly give a huge thank you to everyone who subscribed to this channel recently. Thank you for watching my videos covering obscure fighting game trivia like our story today. So if you want more of this from me in the future, spinning bird kick that subscribe button right now. In the words of Elvis Presley, thank you very much. Essentially, each of these 5 obscure Street Fighters are linked to Asian mythology, so let's go through each of them one by one. This fighter with big mummy milkers is an anthropomorphic interpretation of Byakko, an entity that is traditionally depicted as a celestial white tiger. Functioning as one of the 4 symbols of Taoism, Byakko is the guardian of the West and is associated with the Chinese element of metal, making her pair of powerful weapons make more sense, and I am not talking about breasts this time. Byakko is associated with the season of autumn, the planet Venus, the colour white, and can control the wind. Further from this we then have Suzaku, who is usually depicted as a vermilion bird who occupies the southern sky. All 4 of the symbols of Taoism are represented in the form of constellations in our night sky, with Suzaku being able to control heat and flame. Connected to the fire element, the season of summer, and the planet Mars, you can probably gather Suzaku is the red member of the 4 symbols. Building on these further, we also have Genbu, the black tortoise, who represents water, the season of winter, and guards the north. The Genbu Street Fighter character appears large and round like a tortoise, and appears to have the ability to withdraw their head. Out of the 4 symbols, we finally have Sirio, the Azure dragon, who represents spring, the element of wood, and guards the east. This character has long blue hair and carries a crossbow. Finally, as mentioned earlier, there was a 5th character revealed, Koryu, the yellow dragon. Interestingly, while in Japan there are only 4 symbols, in Chinese mythology there is a 5th, with this character representing the earth element, and the changing of seasons rather than one season in particular like the other symbols. The illustrations that were revealed on Twitter by Nakayama were, according to EventHubs.com, drawn by longtime Capcom artist Bengus, who has worked as an artist on a legendary amount of Capcom games, including Darkstalkers, the Marvel vs. Capcom series, and multiple entries from the Street Fighter franchise too, with work with the company stretching all the way back to 1992. Their artistic contribution has certainly been prolific. These 5 characters which they designed were created with the purpose as functioning as mascots for a series of special events. Essentially, Street Fighter V would begin to be played competitively at Rage 2016. Rage was one of the largest eSports events in Japan, with big money prize pots for the tournaments. Created by CyberZ Limited and Avex Entertainment Company Limited, these events were co-sponsored by Capcom themselves. From 2016, a long-term plan would be laid out, whereby each year there would be a Street Fighter V tournament series, each of which would be named after a different member of the 4 Holy Beasts. The first event, which took place in May 2016, would see players compete for the Genbu Cup, a tournament which would obviously have Capcom's Genbu character as its mascot. These events were part of an initiative created to further increase awareness of esports in Japan, with a goal of revitalising the esport community, developing the market further. To make this slightly cooler, gamers would compete for more than just money and pride, as these events would also see a further prize up for grabs. What I'm referring to are special in-game costumes that would be given to tournament winners, ones that stylistically match the theme of each of the Holy Beasts. So while none of these symbolic fighters were ever made or planned to be playable, rare in-game costumes were produced that represented some of them. After the May 2016 Genbu Cup, October of that same year would see the Suzaku Cup take place, with the 2018 Byakko Cup being considered even bigger, with an insane prize pot of 4 million yen at stake. But as for the cups, where we would expect the final of the 4 Holy Beasts to be represented, along with a 5th additional Chinese beast, sadly, these events would never take place. Thus meaning players would never compete for neither the Suryo Cup or the Koryu Cup, thus meaning that earlier this week would be the first time in history we have ever seen Capcom artwork of either of these lost characters. So why did the last 2 cups not occur, you may ask? Well, a quick browse of the Rage website tells me that as of 2019, Capcom were no longer one of Rage's sponsors, which could explain this series of tournaments' demise. This means that sadly, 2 one-of-a-kind costumes that, while designed, sadly never made it into the game, even as exclusives to tournament winners. While it is terribly sad that the world missed out on seeing these goodies at the very least, we got some very cool artwork to look at that not only spotlights Asian folklore in an interesting way, but reminds us that these tournaments happened at all. Over the years, Bengus has produced artwork showcasing tons of iconic characters, so it's nice that we were recently shown off some of these more obscure pieces, which I would not be talking about today if it weren't for the tweet by Nakayama. So thank you for that, sir. Anyway, if you found pleasure from this one, don't forget to see future uploads by subscribing, and I guess if you like this, you'll be interested in learning about the lost roster that were produced for Street Fighter 2 and 3. Annotations for both of these videos will be available to click as of right now. Yeah! Cheerio!